Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Books and Books. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Steve Moss. On behalf of everyone here at the bookstore, we welcome you. While you are silencing your cell phones, please take a moment to familiarize yourself with our Books and Books newsletter. This will give you a synopsis of all the wonderful events we have at Books and Books every day and every night of the week here at the bookstore. Many of them being live streamed, as you can see by the lights and cameras here in the store today. You don't have to take this with you. You can always go to our website at booksandbooks.com, give us your email address, and then you will get more emails than you know what to do with. But it will certainly keep you abreast of everything that's going on here in the store. And while we'd love to have you here, you don't have to be. As I say, you can watch online. You can call the number on your screen below. You can call for an autographed copy of the book, or even to call and ask a question of the author, and we can do that for you while the event is in progress. We ship for free anywhere in the United States. Overseas might be a little bit more. The Dog Lover's Guide to Travel is National Geographic's ultimate resource for traveling with your furry friend, featuring hundreds of dog-friendly places to pamper your pooch, from doggy daycare to canine cruises. Special features include walks you can take with your dog, insider tips from local pet parents on how to best enjoy their area with a pup, and sidebars detailing unique opportunities for coddled canines, such as winery hikes in California wine country. New York Times bestselling author and pet parent Kelly Carter and her beloved long-haired Chihuahua Lucy. Did we get a mic on her? I'm not sure. They will give you the inside scoop on pet-friendly hotels and restaurants, beaches, parks, and dog runs, plus the lowdown on events for four-legged visitors and dog-friendly attractions. Kelly Carter is a New York Times bestselling author, founder of the Jet Set Pets. As a speaker, she dazzles audience with tales of her journey to award-winning sports writer, to celebrity reporter, to pet travel expert. Please give a warm welcome to Kelly Carter.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you for coming out. It's fun being here out of frigid San Francisco and getting some warm weather for a change, so that's great. So this is, first of all, oh my gosh, the most amazing bookstore I've ever been to. What a treasure that you guys have here. If I lived here, I would be here every day drinking my rosé and reading another book. Right now we're talking pet travel, in particular dog travel with the Dog Lover's Guide to Travel, a book that just came out last week and that I wrote along with Lucy, my long-haired Chihuahua. And Lucy and I, fittingly, we met at an airport. And when people hear that, they said, oh, was she wandering around baggage claim or something? But the truth is, I had to fly to Pasco, Washington from Los Angeles, where we lived at the time, and I had to go pick her up from the breeder. She was the breeder's pet. Lucy was 9 months old when I got her, and she's now 13. So we've been traveling for nearly 13 years. And during that time, we have traveled all across the United States. I think we were together for a week in Los Angeles, and then we went to New York. And she went to an off-Broadway play and, fashion shows. She did everything. That's been Lucy's life. We've lived in Italy and therefore traveled all over Europe. We still return to Europe every year. We've been to Mexico and Canada and the Caribbean, and it's really easy to travel with dogs these days. It's gotten so much easier over the 13 years since Lucy and I have traveled together. Some of the biggest changes that I've seen in the pet industry mainly have been with the hotels becoming more pet friendly. Over 60% of hotels in the U.S. accept pets these days, which is wonderful. And not just accept pets, but really roll out the red carpet. So, we're staying at the Westin just down the street. And there's a welcome board for dogs. They have 3 dogs in the house right now because there's dog names on there. There are dog treats outside and a little bowl of water, and it has the dog's name, welcome, Eva and Lucy, and I forget the other dog's name. But that's so cute. And there's the Westin Heavenly Dog Bed, which, Westin is known for its heavenly beds, and they have dog beds too. Lucy's very particular about dog beds, but I tell you, when it comes to Westin beds, she loves her Westin dog beds. And then there are dog bowls. It's just less for you to have to travel with as a pet parent these days. And then you have, hotels like the Peninsula in Chicago, which has doggy room service and massages for dogs. I mean, you can go just as much as you want to do for your furry friend. It's available with hotels these days. And that wasn't the case many years ago. Before, you had to smuggle your dog into a nice hotel or, stay at a roadside motel or something. But now, just about every hotel, I say 60%, that's only 60% that are responding to surveys. There's it's very hard not to find a pet-friendly hotel these days. Most hotels do accept pets. And one thing I like to tell pet parents, people always say, oh, well, Lucy's small. Of course she can stay anywhere. And a lot of people who have larger dogs, say 25 pounds or over, you're like, okay, where can my dog stay? So I always recommend Kempton Hotels for one, because that brand, you have the Epic Hotel here in Miami, but there's Kemptons all over the country. Kempton is great because Kempton never charges, number one, there's no pet fee, and there's absolutely no restrictions as far as the size or number of pets that you can bring. I mean, you can go there with a baby elephant and it's okay. They're like, come on in. How many do you have? It's fine. And that's why I love Kempton Hotels. So I love the W Hotel, which even though W does have usually a restriction of 25 pounds or so, a lot of times, not with W, but all hotels, even if they say, oh, if it states on the website, only 25 pounds, call the hotel, say, oh, okay, you know what, my Labradoodle really weighs 50 pounds, but he's so well behaved, and what's your email address? Let me send you the link to his YouTube video. Make a YouTube video of your dog. Show that your dog is very well behaved, and you would be surprised how many times hotel GMs will say, you know, we'll make an exception. Because, as I write in the book, they would rather have a big dog, a big, quiet, well-behaved dog, than a small, yappy dog. Not that Lucy would ever yap, of course. So, but a lot of small dogs, you know, they are a little bit yippier. So, but don't be afraid to call a hotel and plead your case, just like you would do with anything else. I've had to do that when renting properties, and sometimes you rent a house for vacation. And they're like, no pets allowed. I'm like, no, Lucy's really good, and she's small, but she doesn't bark, and here's her video. You know, I have her website, or, you know, just act like you are going after a job or something, and everything that you would do, sell your dog the same way that you would sell yourself. And it's amazing how many people will change their mind once they know the dog is well behaved. Other changes that I've seen or with the quarantine. Years ago, people would say, oh my gosh, I want to go to Europe. I can't take my dog to London. Years ago when Richard Burton was filming a movie and Elizabeth Taylor was going with her husband then, and she had to rent a yacht to keep her dogs on, you know, kind of like off in the water because they were not allowed in the UK. There was a 6-month quarantine. That quarantine is now gone. So 2 years ago, the UK fell in line with the rest of the European Union, and as long as you have your dog has a rabies shot and a microchip, and then there's another blood test that you have to have. You can take your dog to London too. We lived in Italy for 2 years. There's never been a quarantine in Italy, France, Germany, so many places. Hawaii is a great destination for pets, which a lot of people don't know that. They hear about this 120-day animal quarantine, but there are ways around it. And you have to start the process 4 months in advance, and it's costly. It is $400, but you can take your dog with you. And as you know, anyone who boards pets, you can pay a lot more than $400. I just went to Hawaii 2 weeks ago. I didn't take Lucy on the trip because the trip came up within a month. And so I didn't have time to do the paperwork, which I said takes 4 months. And so her boarding was over $600 for 8 days. You know, I could have saved money taking her with me. You know, depending on where you're boarding. I live in San Francisco, which has a very strong economy. So those are a couple of the changes that have made the airline industry is getting better transporting pets. It's still not nearly where it should be as far as when you have to check your pet has baggage. 21 pets died last year while traveling, but 2 years ago it was 43. So the airline industry is getting better. 21 is still way too many, and if you read how come these dogs died, or in some cases was a rabbit or a cat or something, you know, it's all senseless reasons. It's breeds that should not have been checked anyway. You know, one airline made a mistake and accepted a breed that it does not accept. Usually when you have the brachyphiliac dogs, those with the stub nose, English bulldogs and Pekingese, those dogs should not be checked has baggage. They just have breathing problems anyway, and it's just dangerous. I really don't recommend people travel with their dogs that way. I know sometimes there's no choice. You know, you want to go on vacation for whatever it is, whether it's 2 weeks or so, and you want your little buddy to go. It takes too long to drive across country, so you have no choice but to check your 50-pound dog. But it is risky. Chances are your dog will make it, but there are also times when, unfortunately, it just doesn't happen. But I recommend that people go to Department of Transportation Air Travel Consumer Report. Every airline is required by law to report the number of deaths, injuries, or loss, a pet escapes or something like that. Every month they have to report that. And these reports are made public. I always post them on my website on the jetsetpets.com. But I found out, interesting enough, last year, there was a woman who was moving from San Diego to Boston in the summer, and she checked her pet on United Airline, and her dog sat on the tarmac during a layover in Houston and was out there for so long her flight was delayed. It was Houston in the summer. Imagine Florida summer, having your dog on the tarmac. You know, it's just not going to do well. So her dog arrived. She saw the dog, first of all, during the layover. She started filming. And I would have been going crazy. I would have been like, you know, knocking on the pilot's door. Someone get my dog off this tarmac. She started filming, so she has videotape of it. Anyway, when she arrived, her dog had suffered a heat stroke. Her vet bills were almost $3,000. Her dog, a Sedona Greyhound, her dog survived. But United Airlines also wanted her to sign a confidentiality agreement, and they were going to pay her vet bills. Thankfully, this woman did not sign this, and she went public with a Facebook page called United Airlines Almost Killed My Greyhound. But NBC ended up reporting on that, and it's made a lot of news. And since then, people who transport dogs, they've come forward. And they said, you know, there's a lot going on here that people don't know how bad it is to transport dogs, you know, on airlines. Airlines are in the business of transporting people, not pets. A lot of times baggage ends up being next to, you know, humans' bag. You have there's turbulence, things fall on your dog. It's horrible, it's risky, so just be aware of it. But anyway, that's the bad side of travel. Generally, it's a lot of fun. And once you get to where you're going, there are so many things that you can do with dogs these days, which are some of the things that I write about in the book. You know, dog-friendly restaurants, which are becoming very popular. We're here in Coral Gables. You know, it's great. There's so many places you can take your dog when you're eating outside. Dogs have their own menus at a lot of restaurants these days. Doggy dining menus. One of the coolest things I discovered while writing this book are restaurants for dogs only. And you have one right here in Miami called the Doggy Bag Cafe that Chef Lolly, who's sitting right here, that she runs. And it was the coolest thing. Oh my gosh, you should see this. They have brunch for dogs. The dogs have their own little booster seats and little tables. It's the cutest thing. There's a place in Seattle also that I write about that does that. But it's so many cool things that you can do with dogs these days. One of the other trends I discovered while researching the book is combinations, dog parks and watering holes. I love to have a glass of wine in the evening. Or at lunchtime, doesn't matter. But, you know, you take your dog to a dog park, it's kind of boring. Yes, you can sit around and talk to your friends who you see and all that. But really, you'd like to sit down and maybe have a burger or something, or chips or something. So there's a place in Dallas called Mutt's Canine Cantina. Everybody goes there after work. It's a huge dog park. They actually have attendants there. So your dogs can go in the park, someone's watching them, and you can sit down and have an adult beverage or a glass of lemonade or a cup of coffee and have a meal also. And these places are popular in Denver also. That's was really one of the cool things about writing the book, was discovering so much that there is to do with dogs. You don't have to sit in your hotel room when you travel with a dog. There are dog-friendly museums in Savannah, in New York, Santa Fe, which is great for, for art, has so many pet-friendly art galleries. So there's tons of things that you can do with your dogs. The regular tourist attractions. Even if you're going to LA and say, oh, I want to go to Universal Studios, I'm going to be out there all day. I don't want to leave my dog in the room. And a lot of hotels do not allow you to leave your dog unattended in the room. There are kennels actually at some amusement parks, such as Universal Studios, where you can board your dog while you go and spend the day at Universal Studios or in another amusement park. And so that's a really cool thing. Other changes, unfortunately, we haven't gotten to the point when it comes to travel of Amtrak being dog friendly. I know that there are some legislators in New York who are fighting right now to have it changed and make Amtrak dog friendly, because we lived in Europe, and so we're so used to taking trains from one country to another, and I don't know of anybody who ever got ill from Lucy being in the car with them. I don't know. I know people have allergies, and it is a serious problem for people, but they seem to have figured it out in other countries, and hopefully they will in time for this country also. A lot of people always ask me, what about cruises? What cruises can I take my dog on? Unfortunately, only Cunard with the Queen Mary 2, which has a transatlantic crossing, right now that's the only one that's pet friendly. And that one fills up so far in advance. They still don't allow dogs in the cabin, and they have a kennel, but you can go and visit your dog a few times a day or as often as you want to, and they have attendants who play with dogs and everything. It's quite nice, actually. But boy, they get filled early. It's pricey, and they fill up. So if people are going to Europe and you want to take your big dog and you don't want to check your big dog has baggage, book a flight or book a passage on the Queen Mary 2 and take your dog across from New York to the UK, and then you have the rest of Europe, is at your fingertips via train, which is really cool. Other changes or what else is going on in the pet travel industry are, let's back up to some other cool things that you can do. There are painting classes in Denver that you can go to, which dogs are welcome to go on. It's interesting here in Miami, and a lot of people come here for the beaches, obviously. Unfortunately, your beaches are not the most dog friendly, but they're getting, they're getting better, a little bit better. Hopefully, maybe with this book we'll encourage some other places to, lighten the laws a little bit for Fifi to go out and frolic in the waves off leash or so. But there's really a lot of dog-friendly beaches, and I didn't rank in the book. I didn't rank the destinations 1 through 75. There's 75 destinations featured, and I didn't rank them. But if I had to, Carmel by the Sea would be number 1. Carmel by the Sea. It's about 2 hours south of San Francisco, and it's famous. Clint Eastwood was the mayor there at one point, but there's a very cool hotel there called the Cypress Inn that Doris Day co-owns. And they have yappy hour every single day. There's yappy hour. And I tell you, this place blew me away. You walk in there, there was a lady there, she weighed 125 pounds. Her dog weighed 138 pounds. Her dog weighed more. But you see German Shepherds, you see Great Danes. There's dogs of all sizes, in the art galleries there, in the wine tasting rooms. I think it's 33 of the 54 restaurants in Carmel by the Sea allow dogs, and a lot of them have doggy menus. The entire beach is off leash for dogs all year round, anytime. So that's like my favorite place to go. I wish every place could be like that. There's nothing that brings me more joy than seeing dogs like frolicking off leash in the water. So I've talked a little bit now. I want to know if anyone has any questions about pet travel. Who travels with their pet already? Okay.
She gets a little stressed out on planes.
Does she?
Yeah.
And what have you done to try to alleviate that?
I've taken her out of her
Taken her out of her bag?
and put her under my coat.
Yeah.
And just carried her.
Well, there's
They
one...
don't allow, the dogs to come out of their carriers.
They don't allow them to come out because people do have allergies, and sometimes dogs escape, and then it causes, their planes have had to make emergency landings because a cat got lost or something like that. One time a cat got into, I don't even know where the cat went. It escaped. Cats can find the smallest hole and go and hide or something. But I recommend if your dog has anxiety or gets stressed out, have you heard of Thunder Shirt?
Yes, she has it.
And it doesn't work?
Sort of, not really.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, because I thought those things, I usually swear by those things.
Whenever it thunders, I put it on her, and she does calm down a little bit, but
Yeah.
she's still, yeah.
Have you tried it when she travels?
No, not really. I did one travel to Vermont from here, and it was, 2 planes, and it was a really long trip, and that was it. She was so stressed out that I didn't take her on the plane anymore.
Is it the carrier, or is it just to travel in general?
I think it's probably the carrier.
Yeah, because I was going
just
to
being underneath the seat, and I think that's what it was.
Yeah, because I was going to say, make her love her carrier. So don't just use the carrier when you're going on a trip. Make it a fun place for her. Put her treats in there at home. Leave it out at home. Make it part of her play area. So play with her in there. Put her favorite treats in there. Play little games in there. Use her carrier when you take her to the Doggy bakery. So she starts to associate good things with her carrier, and not if travel is freaking her out or the carrier or something. Start to see if you can make her love her carrier so much. And then there are different things that you can just kind of give your dog, whether it's ginger or some natural things that will calm her a little bit. And hopefully she'll learn to love travel. I tell people also, not every person loves to travel, and not every dog loves to travel either. So, we can't force people or dogs to love travel. But hopefully she's happy once she gets where she's going.
Yeah, she goes everywhere with me, and unless it's planes.
Yeah.
And I think I was stressed as well, and she probably.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the other thing. Like Lucy used to. I'm usually very mellow, laid back, but when I'm packing, I'm moving quickly, going from room to room, opening drawers, packing. Lucy's like, okay, what's going on? It kind of makes her a little on edge too. So if you can be calm throughout the whole packing process and throughout traveling, they pick up on that too. And so if they see that you're stressed out, then they'll get stressed out also.
You mentioned a ginger now.
Yes.
How would I give the dog ginger? Is it the fresh ginger or in water? Or?
And that one I've read, I have not used, so I'm actually not even going to misspeak and say that you should do this or do that. But maybe check with your vet and ask them how it should be administered. But I've read that that's a good calming solution, even for car travel too. A lot of dogs and cats, they get a little nauseous with motion sickness and things like that, and I hear that ginger is a good remedy, a good natural one.
There was just a write-up in Modern Dog on using ginger for that very reason, so if you go online, you'll be able to look up.
Okay.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Oh my God, it takes a village.
Yes.
So are there some planes that are airlines that are more friendly towards letting your dog go in the cabin, or is there a certain size?
Pretty much every airline will allow a dog in cabin if it fits underneath the seat in front of it. And the carrier has to be a certain size, and there has to be a certain weight. These dogs, the hot breed are Frenchie, bulldogs. And those little dogs, they weigh a ton. It's like they're tiny, but they're going to exceed the weight limit. And there's no general rule. Most airlines, it could be anywhere from 15 to 20 pounds. And your dog needs to be able to stand up in the carrier and turn around. And they will check, too. She's so tiny that, she hasn't had to go through that test. But I've talked to other people who have dogs of a certain size, and they push their dog and stuff it into the carrier. And airlines have said, sorry, but your dog is not going to go.
My trainer also said that if you get a letter from the doctor saying your dog's for emotional support or something like that, that you can take the dog
It has to be a
on the
service
plane
dog.
with you.
No, it does not have to be a service dog. You can have an emotional support animal, which is completely different from
Well,
no,
yeah, that's what I'm
completely
saying.
different from a service animal. A service animal is trained to perform an everyday function, whether it's tying your shoe or something like that, or guiding you or something. But you can have an emotional support animal, which has the same rights on an airplane as a service animal does, meaning it does not have to be in the carrier. It can sit on your lap, and it can be over the weight limit. It just cannot impede on any other passenger's space. And, there's a huge controversy about that right now, because a lot of people have discovered it's a loophole in the law in a sense. But as I say, everybody who has pets, everybody knows how calm they are, how much they calm us. And it's been medically proven. That's how come many airports have dogs that they bring in, pet therapy dogs, to calm passengers before they travel. You go to hospitals, they have pet therapy dogs there. Everybody knows that dogs are very calming. They help us. They lower our blood pressure. They do all these other things. So it's, people say, oh, they're gaming the system. It's not necessarily gaming the system. It's actually just using the system to your benefit. So if you do have a medical reason, and your doctor thinks you have a medical reason for how come you need your dog with you, then yes, you can have a note written. It has to be dated within the last year, on letterhead, and from the physician, stating very specific things, and it has to be presented to the airline, most required at least 48 hours in advance. They will contact your doctor and make sure that it is legitimate. And then you can take your dog with you, the dog that is over the size limit for in-cabin pets.
What about a therapy dog?
If you have your dog as a therapy dog at hospitals, that does not qualify it to travel as an emotional support animal for an airline. And also, when you have an emotional support animal, you cannot take it every place with you. So service animals can pretty much go anywhere. They're allowed inside of restaurants, inside of buildings that do not allow dogs or other pets. But emotional support animal does not have that benefit, nor do they stay at hotels for free. Hotels do not charge for people to bring a service animal with them. But emotional support animal, they will be charged.
But they can fly with that.
But they can fly with that, yes. And so that's why you see so many on board these days. I mean, I was on one flight, and there were 3 dogs next to each other.
I thought there was like a two-dog limit on each plane.
No, generally it's 5 dogs in coach. And
That's right, you can't travel
yes,
first
you're
class.
traveling first class, so that's why you have 2. Generally it's 1 or 2 in business or first class, and then 5 in coach. And sometimes sometimes some will allow 7 or so. It depends, especially when it gets to like dog show time, and a lot of people are going to New York for the Westminster Dog Show or something. But I do recommend you always book your pet's passage as early as possible because of the capacity controls that are in effect. I've had to change my flight a couple of times when I was moving back from Italy, and I could not book a flight back to the States. I had to wait about 2 weeks past when I wanted to leave because every flight was booked in first class with a dog. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to put Lucy in coach. I was going to buy her a coach seat. And so I get my little, use my little upgrades for first class. And they said, no, your dog actually has to fly. You have to be with your dog. And I said, well, I want to leave. I've got to leave. My lease is expiring. I tell everybody I'm going. I got to leave. But so that's why I caution people, book as early as you can. I've had the hotel or airlines call me back 2 hours after securing Lucy's passage saying, oh, sorry, we didn't realize that flight was already full with dogs. So can you take the next flight? And I'm like, okay. So do it as early as possible and try to have a little bit of flexibility. Yes.
Kelly, I thought that years ago that they would only take dogs in baggage certain times of the year, like during the really hot months they don't do it, and during the cold months they don't.
Some airlines do have winter and summer embargoes. Delta Airlines, American Airlines. United does not, because United has a program called Pet Safe that is totally dedicated to transporting pets. Unfortunately, as we know from this incident that I talked about with this greyhound, you know, that pet was not so safe. But most airlines will not let you transport your dog as baggage if the temperature is scheduled to be around above 85 degrees or if it falls below a certain amount. Some Delta's just like, it doesn't matter. It's just like certain months or certain times a year, say from December 15th to whatever, February 15th. I'm just throwing those dates out there. And it has certain times. Also, if you're traveling during the heavy holiday season, because there are so many more passengers and more bags, Delta has restrictions on allowing pets during that time also, because they can be selling, not that they're really, well, they are getting money for bags these days, before they weren't. And so, but those are all things to keep in mind. So book as early as you can when you book your pet's passage, as early as possible. Any other questions on there?
I'm just fascinated with your work. I mean, is it even a job? Or is this just like awesome? I mean,
it is a job. It's interesting, and I've been writing for 30 years, and I started off as a sports writer, and I decided in the 6th grade to become a sports writer, but I always said I would only cover sports until I turned 35. Because I didn't want to be this old woman chasing these young guys around the locker room to get a story. You know, the athletes pretty much stay the same age, and the writers get older and older. And I was the first female to cover the Lakers. It was my goal in college. I said, I'm going to cover the Lakers. I love the Lakers. It was just Showtime era and everything. And so I did get my dream job. I was 28 years old and started covering the Lakers. And then by the time I turned 35, I said, enough. And I switched to I became an entertainment reporter and did all of the, you know, the Oscars and the Grammys and all that, and sat down and interviewed every celebrity, and that got old pretty quickly. It was fun for a while, and it's very glamorous and everything, but it gets old pretty quickly, and so I ran away to Europe to get away from celebrities, and and really then, and I always wanted to write travel, so I said, you know what, I'm going to become a travel writer. And Lucy was with me. You know, I had Lucy for a couple of years then. And so I started writing travel stories, and then started writing a little bit more about pet travel. And then by 2012, I just realized that there just weren't enough. There are a lot of dog travel sites out there, but there aren't enough that focus on the news. And first and foremost, I'm a journalist. So anyway, I started my website called the Jet Set Pets, which led to the book deal. And with my website, I really focus a lot on the news. So you're going to know when there are changes in quarantine laws, when there are changes in the airlines. I'm going to remind you that an embargo is starting on Delta Airlines for the winter. So, you know, book elsewhere or something like that. And also you're going to find out which hotel where your dog can get a great blueberry facial too. And also you're going to know what airline is not doing a very good job transporting pets. And so I give you a little bit of everything, from pet-friendly hotels to airline pet policies, because not every airline allows pets as baggage, which I applaud those that do not. I mean, JetBlue, and do know JetBlue is really great for pets because you get frequent flyer miles. It's the only airline that gives you frequent flyer miles. You get 300 True Blue points when you bring your little dog on board. United used to give you frequent flyer miles. It did a little trial thing, but it stopped that. Too bad. But you'll find out, like I said, on my website, pet policies for airlines, entrance regulations for 30 different countries that you might be going to, you know, whatever the hot countries are. So there's a lot of information. That just really came about as a need, and me really wanting to help other people travel with their pets. You know, it's amazing as I travel around and people say, oh, you have your dog. I wish I could have brought my dog with me. And they're like, I didn't know I could bring my dog to another country, or I didn't know that this hotel was pet friendly. And that's one thing I write about in the book is don't get discouraged if you go to a hotel's website and there's no pet policy on there. As long as it doesn't say no pets accepted, chances it might accept pets. Four Seasons never advertises that it accepts pets. Mandarin Oriental is another brand that does not advertise. Mandarin Oriental has great pet amenities, but you'd never know it.
What about the Ritz?
The Ritz Carltons, most of them do accept pets across the board. They do not have a general policy, but most do. But some are so bad. I mean, the Ritz Carlton in San Francisco, the dog has to be 10 pounds or under. That's just, I'm like, why bother? Lucy can go and maybe this little rat's here, this little cutie pie here. A few dogs can go, but hopefully, and that's why I get after Ritz all the time, hopefully it'll increase the weight or so, and they'll change the policy. But most Ritz Carltons do accept pets also.
Do you know how many hotels in Coconut Grove accept pets? Have you researched that?
I do not know for how many, but they've got some great ones in Coconut Grove. Is it the Isle or so? That accepts pets. I mentioned a couple of them in Coconut Grove that accepts pets. But there's great amenities here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had trouble trying to get a pet hotel was in Key West.
In Key West.
Really? Yes.
Of all
I
places.
had to call a lot of places before I found this one dumpy place that took pets.
I'm shocked. In Key West of
Yes,
all places.
I called every single hotel, almost so I can go with my pets.
Oh, I guess that's why Key West isn't in the book.
Well, now you can pursue it.
Well, there were some places when I put out a call for, pet-friendly destinations. There was one place and another one in Florida, and I was going to use it, and I said, you know what, your laws are so restrictive on the beach, I just can't do it. I said I can't in my heart, feature your place as one of the 75 best places. And in the book, it also is not exactly the best places. Most of them are, but I mentioned places like Branson, Missouri, which is I mention it because it gets so many tourists go there. It's smack dab in the middle of the country. There's more theater seats in Branson than on Broadway, surprisingly. It's called the Las Vegas of the Ozarks. It's amazing, and so many people go there. And it's not that every place is dog friendly and you can't take your dog to every restaurant, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. So as long as you know you're going to have a few restrictions when you go there, but you can take Rover there with you. But most places out in the book are the places that are really the epitome for pets, or pet paradise, as I call them.
You mentioned the really high-end places, the hotels, but what if you're traveling by car and
Do you have La Quinta Resort, Red Roof Inn?
like Hampton Inn or things like that?
I'm not sure with Hampton, but Red Roof, La Quinta. I list the resources in the back of the book. I list price range. I list hotels across all price ranges that accept pets. I know more the high end off the top of my head because that's what my website caters to. But for the book, then I do cross. It goes down like usually 3, 4, 5 star, but I go down even to 2-star hotels in the back of the book in the resource section. So be sure to check the back of the book. Extended Stay America, which is a great place to stay at when you're traveling, and they're everywhere.
What about the
Marriotts are not pet friendly across the board. You'll find Residence Inn are not pet friendly across the board. No, it's too bad that they're not. Yeah, I know. But you can find some that are. But generally, there are some brands which any of them, wherever you go, they're going to have the same pet policy no matter where you go. 4 Points by Sheraton. Most of the Starwood properties are pet friendly. There are a few that are not there, which are more the exception. You get to the high end, you would think all of them are, but you have the St. Regis in New York, surprisingly, does not accept dogs, which is kind of unheard of, but it doesn't. But a lot of Starwood properties, and again, check La Quinta and Red Roof Inn. Mm-hmm.
Do you know about traveling to Grand Cayman with dogs?
Grand Cayman, I do not remember off the top of my head. Most of the places I've been to, like St. Bart's, Martinique, all those that are under the French rule really do accept pets or so. But even Anguilla, you can take your dog to Anguilla without any quarantine. I think I don't know if I mentioned the Grand Cayman on my website. I've been to the Cayman Islands, but that was well before I got Lucy. So I'm not sure. I would imagine that it's going to follow the rules that the Brits do. So perhaps it has changed. Like Jamaica is a tough one, because before it was still following the rules that the UK did, because it's still, under their rule, or follow their a little bit of their policies. But I'm not sure for Grand Cayman. That's a good question. Australia has a quarantine. Australia in December just reduced its quarantine from 30 days to 10 days. So that's a big step. And 10 days is still a long time, but a lot of people go to Australia for a long time because the country is so large. It takes so long to get there. And so you might end up staying there 2 or 3 weeks, in which case it could make sense for you to take your dog there. But it is one it's getting better, and I say that's a huge step to go from 30 days to 10 days. So hopefully in another few years they'll cut the quarantine down a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But Hawaii's a big one. I mean, so many people don't know that you can take your dog to Hawaii. And what's really great is the humane societies there will work with you and help you fill out the paperwork that your vet has to do, because they really want your dogs to be there too. And I think that's a great service that they provide for free, because it is complicated. Not nearly as complicated as Australia, from what my vet says.
I have a friend that bought a home there to retire, and she didn't realize that quarantine for the dog, her dog, one of them is older.
Yeah.
And she can't make the trip, so she's waiting. She
Another,
just goes on vacation.
Oh, another thing to be aware of, it's amazing how many places I came across, how many cities that will require your dogs to have a permit to go to the dog park, which I had not heard of. And in Chicago, they have all these off-leash areas and great dog beaches, but you have to have a permit. And you personally cannot apply for it. Your vet has to apply for it and pay for it. It's only $5. But boy,
What a pain.
What a pain, exactly. Yeah, but I wanted to take Lucy to the dog beaches there last year in Chicago, so my vet had to apply. And then who knows what happened, waiting for the permit to arrive, and I'm like, is it going to get here in time? But it's amazing how many more places are requiring something in advance. That's the only place I came across that requires your vet to apply. Most places, all you have to do, you can show up and show that your dog is healthy by, or show a proof of vaccination. And most places do not allow you to show just like a tag around your dog's neck. You do have to show the piece of paper that shows the lot number and the expiration date. So be prepared for that. That's one of the reasons I actually, my little props here I almost forgot about. I always recommend that pet parents have the passports. Now this is Lucy's actual passport. In Italy, she needed a passport because dogs have to have a passport. It has a little photo on it from when she didn't have any gray around her mouth. She was a little young thing there. But these are great because they include, you can include all the vaccination information. And these are actually, so these are pet passport. This is actually from a hotel in Mexico that gave Lucy one. But these are sold at like Petco. They're sold online at Petco. And they're great because you can include all of your vaccination and examination records. It's a nifty little thing to carry around with you. So one of the things in the book that I also talk about, like if you're going to, let's face it, your dog can't go every place you want to go when you're on vacation. So I also list like a lot of doggy daycare places. But those places are going to require you to show proof of Bordetella, rabies, and all of that. So carry these little packets around and present these, and also allow enough time for your dog. A lot of places will require your dog to pass a temperament test before going to doggy daycare. But they're pretty easy. I mean, if Lucy can pass, and Lucy does not like dogs, and Lucy has passed. Lucy has a perimeter around her, invisible perimeter. Do not get too close. Yes, she's 13 years old and crotchety. You know, and a lot of people always say, oh, how does Lucy hold it for so long on the airplane? And she does. Thankfully, her bladder is still good. But for dogs that are not, maybe don't have such a strong bladder, have you doggy diapers? which, yeah, I love this company called Do Right Diapers. And they actually will make a custom diaper. These are made, they look a little convoluted, but they stay on. Because anyone who's tried to use doggy diapers will know that a lot of times they slip off. But these are great little things for the airplane. They come in all sizes. I think this is an extra small or so. But doggy diapers. So there's all little things that you can do if you're going on a long trip or you have an older dog or something that can't quite hold it as long as you want it to. And then it's another little great thing to have. Any other questions in there?
Your book is already out then?
The book came out, yes, actually last month it came out.
Oh,
I mean,
didn't
sorry.
say that. It said you had to pre-order it.
Well, sorry, it came out on Wednesday, April 1st.
Oh, okay.
Steve has copies in the back that I will be signing. Lucy's going to be doing a potograph also. But it's great because it's organized. It's all color-coded. There's an extensive intro in the beginning about traveling with a pet. You know, what you need to know, ways to get your dogs ready to travel. I don't recommend making that first trip a cross-country trip. You know, go do a small trip. You're here, go to Savannah or go, you know, maybe Jacksonville, you know, and go to North Florida or something like that. Don't make that first trip a big trip. Or even do something very small. Go check into a Motel 6 and see how your dog does in another space. Because I remember staying in a hotel in San Diego years ago, and a lady said to me, she said, "Oh, I saw you come in with your dog. I have my dog with me too." And she said, "How's your dog doing in the room?" I said, "Fine. Why?" And she said, "Oh, my dog's so nervous, it's pooping everywhere." Oh. And I'm like, oh my God, they're poor people who have to clean the room after that. But you really don't know how your dog is going to do until you get him or her out there. There's a great place in Los Angeles. It's a movie studio where a lot of the airline movies are shot. And what they started doing in the free time is actually they turned it into a flight school for dogs. And so dogs can get used to turbulence. And you see what it's like to go through security, what the whole TSA pre-check is like and all that. So obviously it doesn't work if you're here in Florida. You're not going to go all the way to California to see how your dog does on a plane. But it's a good thing. Hopefully other places like that might pop up in other parts of the U.S. where there are movie studios. Because I think that's a great idea. Because it's so hard. You just don't know. It's just tests. But I also say people have to, really pay attention to their pet. And, if your dog whines at home, it's going to whine on the road. If it cries at home, it's going to cry on the road. So just if you want to travel with your pet, then just try to, put your pet in obedience school. Make sure your pet is as well trained as possible. You pretty much owe it to other pet parents, because the last thing you want to do is be the one who forces a hotel to change its pet policy to say, you know what, we just had this dog that was barking all night long and disturbing all the guests, and we're not going to go through that anymore, so that's it, no more pets. And interesting enough, what I just came across, as I talk about more hotels becoming pet friendly, there's a hotel on Coronado Island near San Diego. Hotel has been around since 1888, the Hotel del Coronado. Famous hotel. Presidents have stayed there, all these movie stars. It just became pet friendly last month. But it banned certain breeds, which I had never heard of a hotel banning pit bulls, Rottweilers, Chows, and there's one other breed. But I'd never heard of such a thing. And I don't know if that's going to be something more that other hotels will adopt. I'm sure it comes down to lower insurance premiums or something like that. It also has a sliding scale on pet fees, which I thought was very interesting. Most hotels will charge anything, like I said, maybe from $25 extra a night, maybe $25 only, or nothing if it's a Kempton hotel. But this one charges by the accommodation that you're in. So if you're in a higher price accommodation, you're going to be charged an extra $200, as opposed to if you're in a standard room, it's $100. which I thought was very interesting also. So I don't know if that's going to be a sign of times, if other hotels will say, hey, yes, if you're staying in a suite, we're going to charge you more. Because it's interesting, some hotels will have certain rooms blocked off for pets only. And I always caution people, do not sneak your dog into say, oh yeah, well I've saved up for my vacation and I want to stay in this ocean view room and they only allow pets on the first floor and I don't want to be on the ground floor because I want a view. I don't want the garden view, I want an ocean view. But don't do it. You may be tempted to do so, but there are some states like North Carolina which can actually kick you out of a hotel if you're in a room that dogs are not allowed in. So more hotels, even though there are more pet-friendly hotels these days, there are also more that have certain rooms that pets can be in, which is good and bad. A lot of times they want to make it easy for us, and they know that we want to be by a door so we can take our dog out as quickly as possible. But it is unfair if you've saved all your money for vacation, for that one vacation for the year, and they're going to make you stay on the ground floor. So I love hotels that don't specify. They just say whatever room is fine, and then they do a deep cleaning afterwards.
Yeah, because that was going to be my question. How well do they clean the rooms? Like you had mentioned earlier, there was another dog that went.
Yes.
It was sick,
Right.
Was scared and was going all over the room.
Yeah, you hope that that's the whole point of them having this pet fee, is they're supposed to do a deep cleaning. But really, we've all been in hotels and waiting for a room, and they're like, okay, the room's just going to be cleaned, and are they really doing a deep cleaning? I don't know. I don't know if deep cleaning if they're really being done or not. They're supposed to, if they say they are, but how long extra that takes, I don't know. I don't know if they're really doing that. I just ask that people try to do the best job that they can do, which means, to practice the no trace left behind. Pick up the dog poop, pick up your pet hair in your room. If you're the kind of person, if you want your dog to sleep with you, take a blanket from home so your dog's not, so you're not leaving dog hair, on the blanket in the room or so. Some hotels will give you a blanket for your dog because they know, hey, we want our dog to sleep with us. They sleep with us at home. They're going to sleep with us on the road too. That's where they're comfortable. But try to be cognizant of everybody. Everybody doesn't like our dogs, no matter how cute they are. It's like everybody just doesn't like them like we do, unfortunately. We'll win them over at some point. But really do try to just be thoughtful and with other people. A lot of people always ask, what do you do if you're sitting next to a passenger who has an allergy or something? There are a lot of people who are allergic to dog dander or cat dander. What do you do?
They move.
Yeah, make them move. It's not up to, you're not responsible for their health. I really tell people these days, you pretty much have to expect a dog's going to be on a plane. It's unusual if they're not on a plane. So somebody really needs to, who has allergies that are to that extent, that person needs to go to the purser, on the top flight attendant on the aircraft, and ask them, are there any dogs on this flight or cats on this flight, and where is the dog sitting? And they will know. Unless it's Southwest Airlines, which has open seating, and so therefore you can be anywhere. But generally they know exactly where it is, and they can make accommodations and move. You can't please everybody. And because one friend said, well, she said, I could be in the last row in coach, and if there's a dog in first class, I'm going to sneeze. It's going to bother me. And I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe you should get your own aircraft. I don't know. There's just, which bring, a lot of people, speaking of own aircrafts, and too bad that Pet Airways is no longer in existence. And that was a pet-only airline and was just a great idea. And it only had there was only one aircraft, and I don't know what happened, but it's been out of business for a couple of years. And so, because people always wonder, what are my solutions? What else can I do? I want to take my Labradoodle or my lab, to New York or so. We want to go to the Adirondacks. How am I going to get my dog there? I don't want to check my dog. And unfortunately, there just aren't a lot of options right now that don't cost a lot of money. Private travel the prices are coming down. There are people who will allow you to hitch a ride on their private plane. Maybe you're going to pay them as much as you would for a first-class ticket. But it's amazing how many charter companies are realizing that, hey, we can help out some people here. you end up splitting the cost. It's still going to be costly. You know, unfortunately, there's no inexpensive way around it.
My sister ended up doing that. She flew from Qatar to Kuwait, and they don't allow dogs, but they do allow birds.
Yes, I know. Isn't that amazing?
and they had to charter a plane in order to get her 2 dogs over to Kuwait.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. People are doing it. I write for a magazine called Elite Traveler, which is a private jet lifestyle magazine, and it's amazing how many people will say now, we're chartering now because we want to take our dogs with us. It's costly. It's quite an expense, but people do it. It's amazing. So anyway, I hope everybody picks up the book. We have great tips from local pet parents too. Things that things that you may not even know about, but you're going to find out because the locals tell you about certain walks that they take or certain hikes that they like to take with their dog, and little tips too. You know, if you're going to Arizona, and here, it's hot here. If your dog's on the street, do people use booties on their dogs here? And so, like in Arizona, they do. You know, you have to protect their paws. And that's like a very important thing to use. We used it when we go to the snow. And I put them on Lucy.
They do that.
Yeah, she can walk in them okay. It's hard finding really tiny ones to stay on her feet, on her little paws. But she can walk in them okay when the 3 that she usually has left on. One always comes off or so. But that's like a great tip from a lady in Scottsdale is like her dog using that, which I think would be great for Florida because I'm sure the pavement gets pretty hot here in the summer. And, you know, it's important to protect the dog's feet or so.
Do you usually feed or bring food on the plane for the dog?
That's a great question, actually. I do feed Lucy on the plane depending on how long the flight is. Like if we're flying from the West Coast to Europe, you know, that's a 12-hour flight. So I do feed her. And
she's going to have to go to the bathroom eventually. So you have to put a little diaper on her.
I don't put the diaper on her. She just won't go. No, she'll just wait. But I don't give her a whole meal, and I don't give it to her early in the flight. So I wait until we're closer to landing. I give her ice cubes to lick on, like now she's thirsty here. And so I don't give her a bowl of water on a long flight. Right. I let her lick on ice cubes. And when we get close to landing, then I'll give her water. So just to make it easy. And she loves licking on her ice cubes. She wouldn't do it yesterday, surprisingly. Our flight we were delayed 4 hours. So we were in San Francisco for 4 hours. Before we left, there was mechanical problems or so, and so by the time we got here, so she had gone quite a long time without water. And I tried to give her ice cubes on the water. She's like, nope, I don't want any. You know, she ate a few snacks, and then we landed in Miami, and she's like, and I'm like, I tried to give you water. So sometimes she just doesn't want any. And I prepared her food at the airport, and she's like, nope, I'm not going to have it. I give her Stella and Chewy's, which needs water to moisten it. And so most times she doesn't want to eat when she's traveling. Now, of course, if we're traveling overseas and I get a nice meal served to me, then she's ready to eat. Yeah, then she's begging. But if it's her food, she's like, nah, I'll just wait. I'm okay. But most times the rule is don't feed your dog within 4 hours of traveling. And what's great to get back, even a good spinoff from that, is the pet relief areas. As you may or may not know, it's the law that every airport has to have animal relief areas. So we got off the plane in Miami, and I asked someone who was like directing cars outside, where's the animal relief area? He said, oh, right down by, it was right in between. I flew American. I don't know what, we came in D, maybe. Next was the international terminal. And then there's a little, grassy area with a white picket fence. It's really landscape beautiful. And it's every airport is required to have an animal pickup area. And most airports will have at least one. You get large airports that have 7. What's really good is more of them are putting them inside. Because I talk about like my delay yesterday. It was a 4-hour delay. I'm already through security. I don't want to go back out through security to take my dog. So more airports. There's about maybe 7 to 10 airports right now. I list them in the book, which have indoor pet facilities, which are great. So like in Dallas, for instance, it might not exactly be at the terminal that you're at, but there's a tram, so you can get down there pretty quickly. And I tested it last year when I was in Dallas, and I said, you know what, this is great, and because it just saves you from going back outside. TSA, you can ask TSA to work with you and say, okay, I'm just going to take my dog outside, can I come back? But really, unless your dog is a service animal, then they're not going to work with you. They're just like, oh, you just have to wait. So that's why I always recommend everybody get TSA pre-check, because that'll get you to the front of the line and get you back through in case you do have delays. Because that's the worst thing is, I always worry about that too, even when dogs are, when flights are delayed. I'm like, what's going on with the dogs? Because they're, we're just about to board, and suddenly they call a delay, and it's like, do they take the dogs back in the wherever they're doing, or are they on the tarmac, as this one unfortunate dog was on the United flight last year. We had some new people come in. Do you have any pet travel questions?
No, I live in a building that they don't permit pets, but I've always had dogs, and so has he.
Okay. And so, and you don't have them in your building now? You can't get them in any kind of way? Any kind of way? I know.
There's a lot of places that don't allow dogs.
I know, it is. It's amazing. One of my boyfriends, his mother lives down here in Florida. And he prescribed, he said his mother needed a dog for her health, and the building in Florida said no. She wouldn't allow it. No, it's too bad. So you have to move, You must move. It's very important that you have a dog. They're good for your health.
I know they are.
When the pets go through security, do they have to be outside of the carrier? Or
They do. That's a great question also. Yes, do not put your pet on the conveyor belt. You can walk your dog through. But you'd be surprised how many people will try to do that. And so they don't know. You take your dog out, you carry your dog through, or you can walk your dog through. I always suggest carrying, because dogs that are being walked, they're just going to have a little accident. And something's going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm freaked out about something. I'm just going to let a little pee out here, or let her poop out. And all the other passengers are going to be mad with you. I was just talking to someone in San Francisco a couple of days ago, my hairstylist, and so she said she was traveling on a flight down to Los Angeles, and a lady pulled her cat out they were going through security, and a lady took her cat out, and her cat was fighting with her, and then pretty soon there was poop on there, and then they had their shoes off going through security, and someone stepped in. It was like, oh my God. And so so try to carry your dog or cat through if you can. And airlines also will have a rule. Most airports have a rule. Just about every airport, your dog does need to be in its carrier, unless it's a service animal or an emotional support animal, while walking through the airport. Some people are like, oh, my dog hates her carrier, so I don't put her in it until the very last second. But I've seen airport employees approach people and say, no, you must put your dog in the carrier. And that comes back to, they're trying to protect themselves too. A dog can bite someone or poop. And at San Francisco airport, they did have to shut down a security line one time when a dog did poop, and they had to shut it down and clean it. And so that, put a burden on the other line and TSA. So try to be considerate of everybody else. And
How much does this dog weigh? I know you probably told them we couldn't get it.
I did not. Lucy is now down to 6.4 ounces. She was up to 8.4, which made, so she just lost 25% of her weight in the last, I think her diet started in August.
How did you do that? Because mine's
Yeah, and it's amazing. And the thing is that she had gained weight on raw food. She's still on raw, but I put her on Primal, and she gained weight. And so now she's on Stella and Chewy's. But I just changed her diet, and because I never overfeed her, but it's just some things some things agree with her and some things don't. And she's older, and she's just not as active, and so that was what I did, was Stella and Chewy's. Okay, well, I think that we're going to wrap up, and Lucy and I are going to autograph and potograph books, and Lucy has a nice little print. Lucy, you ready to sign?